Sharron, thanks very much for being with me this week. I really appreciate it. I know that you've now gotten the Tea Party endorsement, and you were telling me before we started that you're getting money from all over the country, Texas, the East Coast, the Midwest, and that you're very pleased about that. So let me ask you this question. Let's start with this. What do you think will be the economic impact of the stimulus bill, the omnibus appropriation bill, and the 2010 budget on national and Nevada economies?
Harry Reid has said, I'm going to jumpstart this economy. I'm going to help you dig out of the recession. And it hasn't happened. And because it hasn't happened, he said, well, that's disappointing. Well, it's more than disappointing. It's a disaster. What we have going on here in Nevada is a disaster of pretty much colossal proportions. As you know, we're at that over 13% unemployment. Our housing price index, which means the value of your home, has now gone down 17.5%. And the next city to us is Detroit at 7.5%. So it's over double here in Las Vegas what it is in the rest of the nation. We are suffering, our people are suffering, and they're saying, really, we can't stand this. And when you have a stimulus bill that was supposed to stimulate the economy, and all it has done is actually drug us down into more debt and really caused none of the effects that we thought we were promised, it's more than disappointing. So
if you had been there, you would have voted against the stimulus bill entirely?
Yes, and actually I can point back to a record of mine in the 1993 and 95 legislative sessions. The legislature actually passed, and one of my opponents voted for a stimulus bill for Nevada. And as a private citizen, I went out with 80%, I think, or 70% anyway, of the other citizens who said no stimulus here in Nevada. And we were right, because we knew that that debt that we're under is really going to cause us big problems in the future, and that's why the stimulus was such a bad idea.
So you've recently gotten the Tea Party endorsement, and Mark Levin also. Tell us what that's done for your campaign, because I assume it's done a lot.
There were actually 4 endorsements that came out from traditional conservatives: Phyllis Schlafly, Gun Owners of America, the Tea Party Express, and Mark Levin. And then I have endorsements, of course, in the state. Nevada Concerned Citizens, Nevada Republican Assembly, and Nevada Homeschool Network. So it's not just out there nationally, it's here within the state. And what they've done is they've measured that record. These folks are not just shooting from the hip, so to speak. They have looked at my battle-tested, proven conservative record, and they've said, this woman, she has done what she said she would do. She has stood for lower taxes, less government regulation, more individual freedom, and stop the spending. She has truly brought forward that Ronald Reaganomics into the state level, and we trust her to do it at the national level. And that's what those endorsements mean. They've measured the record. They've said that I've come up to their standard, and also just some of the awards that I've received. I got the Ronald Reagan Freedom Medallion for that tax fight that I took all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in 2003, defending our Constitution. Those are the kinds of things that they've said, this person is rock solid. That's what we need, is a rock solid conservative in Washington, D.C. And so that's that measured endorsement that they have done based on the record. And what it does is it sends a message out to those people who listen to Mark Levin, to those people who donate to the Tea Party Express or to Eagle Forum, or even to the Gun Owners of America. This is a person you can put your money in. You can invest in this. And I've heard from a lot of people, we don't want to send money to a group. We want to send the money to a candidate that we can support.
That's interesting.
And so we're getting a lot of individual donations at SharronAngle.com. They can go and make that donation of even $25. I've said that Harry Reid says he needs 25 million. I need 1 million conservatives with $25. Send money. And I've also told them from out of state, you may not be able to vote for me, but certainly I will vote for you in the United States Senate. So send money. Help us get rid of, let's make a deal, Harry Reid.
You have quite a few opponents in the primary. How do you distinguish yourself from the group? And you don't need to go through them one at a time, if you could kind of lump them together.
Well, as you know, there are exactly 12 people running in this Republican primary, and 9 of those don't have any record. So when we've talked earlier this week about the things that I hold dear to me, which is, of course, economic stability and getting out of debt, and then we talked more about my financial plan, my economic plan, which is, of course, pay back on the deficit, cut back on the spending, and finally take back our country through auditing the Fed, through getting rid of the incredible IRS code, that 67,000 pages of reward your friends and punish your enemies, not funding Obamacare, going to securing our borders, enforcing the laws, and I think every state should have a sheriff like Joe Arpaio. So there are just things that can be done to take back our country to those constitutional principles, and 9 of those folks they're just saying, read my lips. I don't have a record, but trust me, you can trust what I say. Now, a Republican voter may do that just because you have an R behind your name, but those independent voters, they're cynical. They don't want to just read your lips, and as we talked about yesterday, the Tea Party Express actually gives me credibility with my record to that independent voter. So I am bringing the independent vote into a coalition, if you will, with Republican voters. The other 3 who do have a record, myself included, and mine is, of course, that proven battle-tested record, which I got the Ronald Reagan Freedom Medallion from the Claremont Institute for fighting for those taxes. So there is some credibility there, and the endorsements show that credibility. The other 2 have spotty records. I mentioned that in one session, one of my opponents voted for a state stimulus bill. The other one that has a record says, well, they've won 4 elections and never lost. Well, I've won 5 elections, and, you know, truthfully, when you have a loss, and you probably know this as well, you learn more from your failures than from your successes. Somehow you think from your successes you did it all. When your failures, you really have to go back and analyze what happened there and what could I do better, and how didn't I really get my message out there so that people really understood, or maybe I didn't spend enough money.
So how have you refined your message?
Well, I don't think that I have refined my message. I think that this is the year that the conservative message resonates. We've seen just a tsunami through these Tea Party protests of conservatives and their grandparents. You know, I've been married 40 years to Ted Angle, and I have 2 children and 10 grandchildren, so I have a vested interest in not passing on a lot of debt to my grandchildren and children. And that's what I'm seeing at these tea parties, is this conservative, grandparently person that's coming, even parents with children saying, you know, it's time to get involved. We need to know what the Constitution says, and we need to get back to that Constitution.
I'm very interested in your campaign. You and I may not agree on a lot of things, but I think consistency is one of your great attributes. I really do.
Thank you.
And I think that, as you say, when people look at you, they know what you're going to do, know what you are, and that you can't be bought.
That's right.
And I think that's very important.
Well, it is, and thank you for saying that, Jim. One of the things, as I've walked door to door, you know, that's my retail politics style. One of the things that even people who don't agree with me say, you know, we can predict you. We like it that you're stable and predictable. Even though we may not agree, we know what you're going to do.
Well, I think win, lose, or draw, it's a good thing that you're in the campaign and in the battle, and I wish you luck.
Thank you so much, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Good deal.